So in response to the last previous video I made, a lot of people are saying, I'm from Ireland really, I'm in America, and how can I vote? Or Americans as well asking how they go about citizenship. That'd be easy to find for yourselves, but I'll say this, like, we've just had an election here, right? And the term period is five years, right? So barring a total dissolution of this government, we're in this for the next 5 years, right? So in terms of voting them out right now, not really an option, right? But what we can do, and what people who are outside of Ireland can do, is keep the pressure on, right? And give, I suppose, echo and expand what Irish people are saying from in Ireland, right? And add to it yourselves if you feel free to, if you feel like you want to do so, right? Feel free. Because one thing that will keep these politicians in line, or will scare the life out of them, right, is their reputations being totally tarnished. From, they don't care about what Irish people think of them. It's the external world, right? Countries external to Ireland and what people think outside of Ireland in regards to these politicians, right? These are one-dimensional people, right? They believe that in order to care for people is just to say, we care for people. And that's as deep as these people go, right? So they're totally persona-oriented, right? They only care about how they're seen by others and their own pockets and all that stuff, right? But their egos are fragile, which means their reputation abroad is sacrosanct to them, right? It is the most important thing to them, how they're viewed. So if they're getting Irish words and Irish sentiment mirrored back to them from people and countries outside of Ireland, that's going to keep them in check, right? Because that's their worst nightmare, is to be seen as total abysmal failures and cruel, horrible, oppressive, tyrannical people, right? That is their worst nightmare. So that is a gift that people that are not in Ireland can give to the people of Ireland and to themselves, right? Because you're standing in truth by doing so, okay? And the second thing, which is a conversation that's going to have to be had, right? And it is something that ordinary, decent Irish people would see as beneath them, right? But it's the idea of money. And I'm not asking for money, but the idea has been kind of moved around, or it's been not even the idea, right? The absolute necessity for it is to build up organic, if you can never get that, right? Organic Irish voices, alternative media outlets, and help to nourish, cultivate, and grow and sustain a counter state, right? A counter way of living to what's going on at the moment, right? So that's obviously welcome in whatever way that can be given. But I don't think it's fundamental, nor do I think it is the main need that Irish people have at the moment, right? I would suggest amplifying Irish voices, adding your own to it. What are your perspectives on this? What are the narratives that are coming out of Ireland to eyes and ears from people that are not in Ireland, right? Give that back. And I think, for myself, I think the fundamental flaw in Irish people at the moment is that we've become disenchanted with the romance of what being Irish can bring, right? It's been stymied, right? That creativity and imagination in Irish people has been stymied. And the first thing to go in times of crises is imagination and idealism, right? People are bound to their tracks in this, and day-to-day struggle is the most significant thing for people in this country, right? And worrying about, are your children going to be safe in school? We've had children being stabbed by people who had no business in this country. Children going into school one morning that just got stabbed and butchered by someone who had no business in this country, right? So this is a concern for Irish people. So the idea of a new Gaelic revival or expansive and interesting literature steaming off the reels in Ireland, we had to forego that. Many people, unfortunately, had to forego that for strict day-to-day survival and sustenance, right? So what I would think would be helpful is reinvigorating some of that nostalgia and romance and imagination in Irish people. And that might come from something as simple as hearing from people who no longer live here, or people whose ancestors are from here and they made their lives and their way in different nations, hearing what Ireland and the Irish people, if anything, means to you, right? That would be something that is potentially uplifting to Irish people, right? That we matter in some way. That, honestly, that is as low as Irish people are in terms of finding and cultivating meaning in their own lives, right? The fact that we've absorbed and distilled and held onto in existential constipation, right? The idea that we're not really worth anything, right? Who cares? We just accept generations of just misery and poor treatment for the sake of a few trinkets being flung at us every now and again, right? Our silence is bought with pennies, and it's a disaster, right? We've long forgotten our history. We've long forgotten the sentiment that echoes through that history. And we've long forgotten our perspective that how we live our lives is going to be remembered more than the fact that we were headstone born on this day, died on that day. Our deeds and our actions and what we stood for and what we spoke against and what we built with people, that matters, right? So I think that's a nice thing that people could give back to Irish people, is the desire to maybe sow a seed back into ground that is long past being fertile, right? Sow and water the seed in Irish people that we matter outside of this country, and our life is not just about paying our way, going to work and paying taxes and then just dying a lonely death, right? That there's a purpose behind being Irish, or being Irish should give a purpose, right? And I said this in previous things, that like, if anything, the Irish Americans are, I find some inspiration in them, because I feel like they are the last ones to give up the ghost, so to speak, of the romance attached to Ireland and being Irish and being a descendant of Irish people and being Irish, but bringing yourself into a different land and sowing your own way and culture over there, right? And trying to bring some of that with you from Ireland into whatever nation you're in, right? That's a beautiful thing, and there's a romance attached to that hasn't been devoured by necessity, right? And I think Irish people have long given that up, and we need to reclaim that if anything is going to persist in this country, right? So that could be a beautiful gift that people could give back to Ireland, what it means to people that are not in Ireland anymore, right? So, along with whatever else, right? And I look forward to hearing people's perspectives on what's going on in Ireland, because the doors have been kicked open, right? Barriers have been torched and knocked over, and now, again, for this limited time, right, all eyes are on Ireland, and it'd be lovely to see what other people think of what's going on here. Because there's no other way of describing it. I said it to someone the other day that people wail on about Nazi Germany, blah, 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 right? And communist Russia, if you want to throw that into the mix. But over the last few years, people in those countries and under those regimes, they had more rights than Irish people have now. They were treated generally better than Irish people have been treated over the last few years in this country. And Irish people accept it. So what I'd love to hear from people outside of the country is to say, what are you doing there? Get up. Get up. Right? Get up, stand up, and fight. Do it.